Did you know that both anxiety and excitement show up in the same way in our bodies? The same physiological sensations that we get when we feel anxious are the ones that we get when we feel excited. The kind of flipping feeling in the stomach, the heart racing, shallow, quick breaths, kind of this vibrating, kind of shaky energy throughout our bodies. And the only thing that makes anxiety and excitement different is our thoughts. Our thoughts make one pleasurable and one unpleasant. So today we're going to do some thought work. I'm going to teach you some cognitive therapy-based skills to work on changing the things that you feel nervous or anxious or worried about into things that you feel good about, that you feel excited about, that you feel pleasure about. But first, if you're new here, welcome to our incredible little corner on the internet. Take a second, introduce yourself in the comment section below. If you're back again, always good to have you. Special shout out to my shifters. Glad that you are here. My name is Kristina, and I am a registered clinical therapist, a researcher, a coach, and a speaker, and the creator of my membership community, the Shift Society, where we are taking this work to the next level. You can get more information about the Shift Society in the description below. I help heart-centered humans think better, feel better, show up better, and have better so that they can like themselves and their lives more every day. And maybe you're sitting there thinking right now, like, how can it be that anxiety and excitement are the same feeling? They're not the same emotion, but they bring about the same feelings, the same physiological feelings in our bodies. And like I mentioned, it's our thoughts that make one pleasurable and one unpleasant. And so changing our thoughts about this is not just simple as like, I'm just going to think positive, or I'm just going to be happy about this, or I'm just going to be excited about it. No, we actually have to do some thought work. It's not just thought flipping. That's not the way thought work works. It's more involved than that, but it is really effective when you do it right. So thinking right now about something that you're feeling nervous or worried or anxious about. Something new, something that you've maybe never done before or not done in a long time. Something that feels like you're putting yourself out there. It feels a little bit vulnerable. You don't know how it's going to turn out. It could be something like a job interview, asking someone out on a date, giving a presentation at work, going into a social situation with people that you might not be familiar with, or even with people that you are familiar with, but it's a lot of people, and that sometimes makes you feel anxious. So what do we do about this? How do we turn these situations that you're like, oh gosh, I often get really nervous about that, or just thinking about that right now kind of gives me that sort of shaky feeling, that flipping feeling in my belly? Well, the first shift that we are going to make is going to be simply in the language that we use to describe these things that often bring up those feelings of anxiety. So think about it for a second. When you are going into some kind of social event or job interview or presentation at work, what do you say? You say something like, I have to do this. I have to do this presentation. I have to go for this job interview. I have to go to this social event because my friend invited me and I don't want to disappoint them. I have to ask someone out on a date because I don't want to be single forever. And do you see how that word have to brings this kind of like heavy kind of sense of obligation, or this sense of dread, or like this sense of being like forced into something? It doesn't feel good. So right off the bat, if you're using the word have to describe something that you really actually want to do, or at least you want the result that comes from it, like getting the job. So instead of saying something like, I have to, reframe that and simply switch it into, I get to. I get to go for this job interview. And we'll see if I get the job. But if I don't do the interview, I'm definitely not getting the job. I get to go to this social event and maybe meet some new people. But I'm also not going to put pressure on myself to have a magnetic, meaningful, interesting conversation with every single person I meet, because that's just doesn't happen for anyone. And that's just not a normal thing. So I'm going to take that pressure off myself, and I'm just going to go in and I'm going to chit chat and have some conversations, and see if there's someone there that I connect with. I get to go and do that. I get to give this presentation at work. I get to demonstrate the work that I've been doing. I get to practice my public speaking skills with people that I work with every day and know relatively well that probably aren't going to be sitting there scrutinizing everything that I say. I get to learn something new or get better at something that I've been wanting to get better at, specifically public speaking. So do you see how it changes so much in our brains just by switching out that one word? The next strategy we're going to use is something just like really logical. We're just going to bring in some really logical thought to counter some of that anxious, nervous, worried thought. Just saying something to ourselves like, you know what, this is just what I need to do to get better at it. I just need to go through the motions. I just need to practice. I just need to show up and do it. And this is just part of learning something new. Anything that's new for most of us feels somewhat vulnerable, especially when it's something that we're putting ourselves on the line for, when we're opening ourselves up to some kind of potential, however unlikely, judgment. But putting ourselves out there in new ways, trying something for the first time, does bring up feelings of uncertainty because we don't know exactly how it's going to go. We don't know exactly how it's going to turn out. And so just taking that step back and being like, you know what? This is just part of it. Nothing has gone wrong if I am feeling nervous, anxious, or worried when I am attempting something new, or at least new-ish. I remember when I first started doing live streams. Gosh, how many years ago was that now? But I started doing these live streams on a social media app called Periscope that kind of lived and rose and died in about as much time. But it was really a good thing because it gave people an opportunity to go live, to teach different things, to share different things, to connect with people from all around the world. And I knew that I wanted to become a better speaker. I love speaking. I love teaching. My mother's a teacher. It is in my blood. It's in my bones. And I knew that this was something that I wanted to do. And I had small children at the time, so I couldn't be really going out to different meetups or different kind of community events to give talks on mental health and wellness. I didn't really have that opportunity to practice in those ways, but I had this app that I could put on in my living room anytime, go on, give short mental health and wellness talks. But I'm going to tell you, the first dozens of times that I went to press the go live button, my finger would shake and I'd be so nervous, be so anxious because I'm going live. There's no redos. I can't stop what I'm doing and go again. It's live and it's happening. I could have deleted the broadcast after the fact immediately, but I would actually not let myself do that because I had to let myself learn. I had to let myself suck. I had to let myself get better and allow myself to have that process. But I'd still feel nervous. And I would show up and I would do my talk. And I remember someone saying to me, you are going to feel nervous. You are going to be unsure. You're actually probably going to suck about the first 15 to 20 times that you go live. But that's just part of it. Just go get those 15 to 20 live broadcasts out of the way so that you can start being good. And I remember feeling somewhat reassured by that, to be like, okay, it's normal to feel nervous. It's normal to suck. It's normal to go through a process, a practice to get better. And for me, it was more like the first 50 times that I went to go live that my finger would shake and I'd feel nervous. But it's true that this was just something I needed to go through to get used to it, to get comfortable with it, to learn, to grow, to hone my skills, and to feel more comfortable with it. So it's just part of the process. Being nervous, being anxious, feeling uncertain, feeling vulnerable, feeling hesitant. And it's just part of the process to get better, to get more comfortable, to feel more familiar. However, there is one caveat to this. If you are just white knuckling your way through something, you are going to the social event, you are doing the presentation for work, you are showing up for the job interview, and you're sitting there telling yourself the whole time, this is awful, this is terrible, I suck, how do I get out of this? I never want to do this again, this feels awful. And if you're letting all of those thoughts invade your brain, then yeah, it's going to feel terrible. You're not going to like it, and it's actually not going to help you get more comfortable and used to it. So it's not going to be the thing that helps you be able to get past that discomfort, because you're just creating so much extra discomfort for yourself in the process. So you might just get through it, but then you're never going to want to do it again because you made yourself feel even more awful while you were doing it. So going through this normal process of feeling anxious, feeling nervous, feeling uncertain about it, and talking ourselves kindly and gently through it is a requirement as well. So being able to say to ourselves, I feel nervous right now, but I'm okay. And I'm going to get through this. This is not my favorite thing in the world in this moment, but it's only because it's something that I'm not used to. So I'm going to show up and I'm going to do my best, and I'm not going to put a bunch of pressure on myself. Or no matter what happens in this circumstance, I'm either going to get the result that I want, or I'm going to learn something in the process. But I'm going to commit to not making myself feel worse with my self-talk or that dialogue going through my brain. I am going to be gentle with myself. I'm going to show compassion for myself. I'm going to be understanding towards myself that yes, this is difficult and this is uncomfortable, but then I'm also going to coach and cheerlead myself through it. That's not going to necessarily take away those feelings of nervousness, but it's going to show you that you are not going to turn on yourself in the process. And that then next time you're going to be like, you know what, I can do it. Because even though it made me uncomfortable, kind of got nervous, got a little anxious, I was there for myself and I was able to move with myself through this experience. And if I commit to showing up for myself and being beside myself and not abandoning myself the whole way through, then I'm going to be okay. The next thing that is going to really help you change that nervousness into excitement is to look at the thoughts that are creating the anxiety, the worry, or the nervousness in the first place. What are you telling yourself? Are you saying things to yourself like, this is going to be awful, I'm going to make a fool of myself, people are going to be judging me, people are going to be looking down on me, I'm going to fail, I'm not going to be able to do it, it's going to be so difficult, I won't be able to handle it? And so of course, if you are telling yourself things like that constantly, of course you're going to dread it. Of course you're going to be anxious about it. Of course you're going to be nervous about it. But the thing is, very few, if not none of those things are actually true. And if they are true, they're not catastrophic. If someone is judging you or having unfavorable thoughts about you, it's not catastrophic. It's not ideal, but we can just let people have their own thoughts and spend less time trying to control their thoughts and worrying about their thoughts and more time managing our own. And yeah, maybe it might not be your most stellar performance ever. You might not be showing up in your full glory and giving them the presentation or the talk or the performance of a lifetime, but it's probably going to be okay. And even if it's not the best, you are going to be okay as long as you commit to not berating and beating yourself up afterwards. So looking at those thoughts, is this really going to be awful if it doesn't go exactly how I want? Or is it going to be a little uncomfortable and maybe a bit disappointing? But when we say it like that, we can handle being a bit disappointed or being a bit uncomfortable. So really looking at those catastrophizing thoughts. This is going to be awful. This is going to be terrible. What's this going to mean about me? No, it's not. No, it's not. And not a whole lot. So really looking at those thoughts. What thoughts am I thinking that are making me feel anxious, nervous, and worried? Usually they're thoughts that something terrible is going to happen. Reminding myself that no, nothing actually terrible is going to happen. And if it is not the best or not my favorite or even a little disappointing, I will be able to handle it. I will be able to get through it. And the other thing is that when things are hard, that is when we grow. We don't grow from doing things that are easy and straightforward and that we feel nothing, neutral, nada about. You're not going to grow by going to the fridge and getting a glass of water, because this isn't something that challenges you. This isn't something that makes you feel vulnerable. This isn't something that puts you out of your comfort zone. It is something totally benign and neutral. And so we need things that push us somewhat out of our comfort zone, not things that put us into a full state of panic, because that's not actually going to be helpful, because we're going to be spending all of our energy trying to not feel completely panicked, that we're not actually going to be able to take the time to learn and grow from it. But things that make you a bit uncomfortable, that push your limits a bit, that is how you grow, is when you stretch. So if you can see these situations that might be making you nervous as opportunities to learn and to grow and to get more used to it and to get better, then there's so much less to fear. As I mentioned a few minutes ago, when it comes to putting ourselves out there in new situations, if we don't see it as either I am going to be great or I'm going to fail, either I'm going to win or I'm going to lose, either I'm going to get the outcome that I want or it's going to be a complete disaster. If we don't see it as so binary of black and white, right and wrong, good and bad, and instead, if we see it as putting ourselves out there in any kind of vulnerable way, as I'm either going to get the outcome that I want or the lesson I need. I'm either going to win or I'm going to learn. And if we use any kind of unfavorable outcome or quote unquote failure, I don't really believe in failure, but if we want to call it that for just the sake of being on the same page with this, if we see any kind of setback, of failure, of unfavorable result as an opportunity to take a step back, not to beat ourselves up, berate ourselves, call ourselves down, make ourselves feel like losers or failures or like crap for it, and instead look at opportunities to learn and grow from that information, then again, we get to get excited about it. No matter what happens, I'm going to get something great. I'm either going to get the outcome that I want or the learning that I need. So taking a step back and asking yourself, what am I doing to make myself feel anxious, worried, or nervous about this thing? And from what I have learned today, where am I going to start with turning this one around and moving into turning that nervousness into excitement? If you struggle with feeling comfortable and confident within yourself when you're going into newer situations, into something that feels kind of vulnerable or unknown, building your sense of self-trust, building a sturdy relationship with yourself so that you can trust that no matter what, you are going to catch and not kick yourself if you fall, that you are going to believe in yourself no matter what, starts with self-trust. And I have a guide for you. It's the simple steps to self-trust, and that's going to walk you through how to create that more solid, sturdy foundation within yourself so that you have that courage to show up, to try something, to give yourself the practice, to maybe get the outcome you want, maybe get the lesson you need. Make sure you grab that Simple Steps to Self-Trust in the description below. Always good to have you here. And until next time, take good care of yourself. Take good care of those around you. Bye for now.